Hello everyone, welcome to Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. Beef prevailed at the 75th Emmy Awards by winning 8 accolades, and now eyes are on Past Lives, which received 2 nominations at this year's Academy Awards. Asian Americans are garnering the attention of renowned critics, and this is not just limited to boundaries of drama series and movies. It also goes beyond to animation as well, with the director of Elemental receiving a nod for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars as well. How did experts see such news, and what are some good dramas and films to enjoy this weekend? For this, we invite Professor Soh Jae from the Seoul Institute of the Arts, who is also a filmmaker. Welcome to the show, Professor Soh.
It's good to be back. Hello.
Hello. And we also have Professor Jeong Areum from Arizona State University. Good to see you, Professor Jeong.
Hi, Bo-kyung. Happy New Year, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being with us. Now, Professor Jeong, first question. So, Korean-Canadian director Celine Song's film, Past Lives, has been nominated for Best Motion Picture and Best Original Screenplay at this year's Academy Awards, becoming the 3rd director of Korean descent to have a film nominated for Best Motion Picture, following Bong Joon-ho and Lee Isaac-chung. What significance does this have?
I think we're definitely seeing an increase in representations of Asian and Asian American narratives, and especially those of the Korean diaspora. And while the central theme of these stories might be universal ones like family or love, something the global audience can resonate with, you can also see elements or motifs that are specific to Korean culture in these works. And from this, we could gather that there is a growing interest in Asian American content in the US. That said, I wouldn't say it's mainstream yet, and few nominations don't fix the problem of the lack of diverse domestic casting, but it certainly is encouraging to see that there's more attention paid to diverse narratives.
All right, not mainstream yet, but encouraging indeed. Now, Professor Soh, as far as I know, this film is Song's directorial debut. Now, what is this film about, and what aspect of it do you believe attracted the National Society of Film Critics?
Well, first of all, it's just a good film. It's amazing that it's a first-time film by director Celine Song, and it follows 2 childhood friends over the course of 24 years as they contemplate the nature of their relationship, as they grow apart. Also, the fact that the man is in Korea, and our main protagonist, Nora Moon, played by Greta Lee, lives in the U.S., so she's become very Americanized. And Hae-sung is her childhood friend in Korea, played by Tae Yoo. And we start the movie with basically Nora, the character, have already married American, sort of a white guy. And basically, you know, it starts with like her sort of connecting to the past boyfriend that she had, and the fact that, you know, he comes to visit her. So it kind of like, the movie has a lot of sort of flashback scenes of what they were like basically back in Korea. But it's kind of an interesting film, I think, in the sense that, again, it's like Lee Isaac-chung's film. It's about immigrant, first 1.5 or 2.0 generation Korean Americans living sort of in that diaspora, as Professor Chung talked about. But what I like about Celine Song is that she actually has a really great pedigree. I don't know if a lot of people know. Her father is Song Young-han, a really famous director in Korea. He has directed movies like Number 3 and Fin de Cycle, and personally a favorite director of mine. So he actually immigrated to Canada, and now his daughter has just, you know, continued the torch, so to speak, in filmmaking. And now, you know, her film has not only been nominated as Best Director for the Golden Globes, but now with the Academy Awards. So I think, you know, this is sort of like consecutive years of, since Parasite or Minari, Asian American films or films made by Asians are really being recognized by sort of the establishment in Hollywood. So I think it's a really good sign.
I see. Well, I didn't know her father was a director. It seems, you know, their passion for movie runs in their blood. Well, Professor Jeong, let's stay with the Oscars and how people of Korean descent have been doing. So, Korean-American director Peter Sohn received a nomination for Best Animated Feature for Elemental as well, right?
Yes, and Elemental draws from the director's own experiences of growing up in the US as a Korean American. In an interview, he talks about how the film was primarily inspired by his own parents who immigrated to the US from Korea, and also the Korean culture that his parents passed down to him and his brother. And we see this in the film through the main character, Ember, whose family are immigrants. And we can also see references to Korean culture in this heartwarming animation.
All right, I see. Well, I love the Elemental movie, so let's have our fingers crossed for him to win this nomination. Now, Professor Soh, let's turn our eyes to Emmys. We definitely need to talk about Beef, led by a Korean-American director and featuring Asian-American actors. So it won 8 trophies at the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards. So what about this series captivated the viewers so much?
Well, it's a really good story, directed by Lee Sung-jin, and it has Steven Yeun, who's a Korean American character in the movie. Basically, it starts with him, with Ali Wong, the lead in the story, 2 strangers who are involved in a kind of a road rage incident that escalates into this huge feud. I've always known Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. He's already made inroads into American culture, so very popular name. Ali Wong's like a stand-up comedian, has done a lot of Netflix movies, and so it's I think the first time these 2 great talents came together in this wonderful story, and it really captivated a lot of people. I think this is Steven Yeun's best work, because he really captured what it's like to be kind of living that sort of diaspora or like a Korean American life. I like things like the Korean church is like a big thing in this movie, and his character really wants to please his parents by buying him a house. He has this immigrant's dream of basically the American dream that all immigrants have. And basically, Ali Wong plays sort of an up and, like very high society woman who's about to sort of change her status by being recognized by basically white culture. And then these 2 people clash. So it just kind of touched upon so many things. And what I liked about it also, it's not just about Korean American sort of existence, but a lot of Asian American things that are happening. And so not too many movies or content or, series dealt with these subjects. But I think this particular, series, Beef, was just amazing. It's like 10 episodes where really delved really into what it's like to be sort of displaced person, but you're so-called there in America trying to live the immigrant's dream of the American dream. And yet, things don't really work out the way you do. And so these characters seem real to me. The story is really gripping, and so, yeah, it's very well deserved that they won all the Emmys.
Right, I cannot agree more that this is Steven Yeun's best work up until now, and I hope to see many of such works afterwards. Now, for this question, I'd like to ask both of our experts. So, Professor Jeong, I remember Squid Game actor Lee Jeong-jae and director Hwang Dong-hyuk receiving the spotlight at the 2022 Emmys, and it was such an inspiring moment as Lee became the first actor of Asian descent to win the award. Now, this time, thanks to Beef, another group of Asian American actors and a Korean American director again won the honor. How do you see such a trend?
Well, like I said, it's definitely encouraging to see more attention and recognition for the Asian American community. And with Squid Game and Beef's success, we can see that streaming services like Netflix have definitely played a big role in making these works visible to the global audience. And at the same time, there are still studies that suggest that representation of minority in Hollywood are still lacking, and there's still much more to be done to ensure diversity in mainstream media. But I think we're doing very well so far.
Right. Well, Professor Soh, may I ask your opinion as well?
Well, I mean, basically, I want to bring back, Parasite. Parasite sort of like kind of through director Bong's, vision, basically winning the Best Picture Oscar and Best Director Oscar, just sort of like taking over the Academy Awards at that time. And then we had the pandemic with Squid Game. Those things sort of happening in conjunction with each other suddenly really threw the limelight onto what we're doing in Korea. And we're a really small country, in East Asia. And, basically everybody knows us as an economic sort of OECD powerhouse, but nobody really knew us except for K-pop and K-dramas. But suddenly everybody was talking about, how Squid Game is just basically taken over everybody's imagination. It also coincided with the pandemic, so I think everybody was home watching Netflix, and it was translated into like 20 or 30, I think something like languages. Everybody was watching it, talking about it. But I think what it really captivated was that it went beyond just being Korean. It was really about the system of, in any country, you have people that, it's the really small percentage of people that own everything, that have luxuries, and the rest of us are suffering, trying to make it there. And it really captivated the story between the haves and have-nots. And I think, it really changed it, but I think it's a really good sign, and I hope we keep going with this wave. But basically, how can we do it? Like we have to kind of like start having new generation of filmmakers continue and with this torch. So I think Celine Song, when we started this talk, is sort of the new generation of filmmakers nobody knew existed that's continuing it. So it's a really good sign.
Right. Hope this trend could continue. Well, Professor Jeong, now let's move on to some of the films and dramas that we might want to take a look at because the weekend is in sight. Now, Yeon Sang-ho's latest occult horror, The Bequeathed, and the dystopian action flick Badland Hunters apparently are mesmerizing viewers. Could you tell us more about them?
Sure. Yeon Sang-ho, who is well known for the zombie flick Train to Busan and also Netflix's original Hellbound, is back with The Bequeathed. It's a 6-episode Netflix original. It's a horror thriller drama that explores issues of family and religion. And there are some very Korean-specific traditions in this drama, like bequeathing a gravesite to a family relative. But the director thinks that the central theme of family is something that the global audience can resonate with. And Badland Hunters, which is directed by Ho Myung-haeng and starring Ma Dong-seok or Don Lee, it's an action film, and it's actually a sequel to the film Concrete Utopia. So as you can guess, it's set in this dystopian wasteland, and Ma Dong-seok is trying to survive in this wasteland and also trying to save a friend. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend both.
All right. Well, I personally actually binge-watched this, The Bequeathed by director Yeon Sang-ho, and I personally really liked it, so I would like to recommend to our worldwide viewers if they haven't tried it yet. Now, Professor Soh, ongoing Korean TV drama Marry My Husband is also garnering attention as the series became the first to reach #1 on the global chart. Now, some critics even called it immensely addictive. What is so special about it?
Well, I think most of dramas on Korean content are really addicting. People binge watch them all the time. This one is basically, it's a story about a woman who was murdered after witnessing her husband's having an affair with her best friend. A typical type of Korean drama, right? But then what's different about this one is that suddenly she wakes up and it's 10 years earlier, so she kind of has a second life. And basically, it's a revenge story, as a lot of these dramas do it. So it was written by Shin Yu-dam, and it stars Bang Min-young, Na In-woo, Lee Lee-kyung, and then Song Na-yoon. So, the dynamic sort of like cast, also the story being about revenge. And like most Korean dramas, it sort of like basically brings back what you want to hide in the past. And all of us have problems, it seems, starting with Celine Song's movie where, the title itself, Past Lives, kind of presents the fact that a lot of Korean dramas have to do with sort of economic sort of problems that people have, people trying to get out of their situation to another one. In this one, it's basically where you marry somebody that you thought you loved to find out that they have betrayed you, but you get a second chance to take revenge on it and see. And basically, it's like a fantasy story where, you can go back in time. So basically it's telling the audience, like, what would you do different if you went back exactly 10 years and see if you could, like, basically right all the wrongs that you did in your life. So I think in that way it's really exciting.
Right. Well, revenge story combined with love. We cannot resist that, can we? All right. Well, Professor Soh, one more question. We have been talking mainly about the OTT series, but since there are many people who prefer going to theaters, I hear Citizen of a Kind was top at the local box office on its opening weekend and for more than a week now. What is this film about? And are there any other films worth watching?
Yeah, Citizen of a Kind is basically, it's a really good premise because it's talking about scammers. There's a lot of phone scamming happening in Korea. So we have Namiran, who's like a really famous actress. She actually graduated from my college, Seoul Institute of the Arts, but she basically comes out as somebody that was scammed. And it's a kind of a comedy, thriller, action, crime movie about a woman who takes matters into her own hands after becoming a victim of a scam. And it's basically topped, the box office and I think this weekend it's probably going to go over, basically 1 million viewers. Right now it's something like topped over 700,000 people at the box office. But what's really fun about this movie is, it has right now it's showing Jang Eun-ju, who's like a top model who does all these kind of comedies. She also graduated from my college as well, but it sort of showcases a lot of talents from actors that are really comical, and so they're taking kind of a funny look at what, I think it's a real serious problem in Korean society where there are all these crimes done now. It's like cyber crimes, I guess, that people try to take your money through your phone or call like innocent people and scam them by saying that they are owed money, and so sort of the older, because we have a very high population of elderly in Korea, there are a lot of scams going on about that. So besides this, I think, basically the 12-12 a day has really kind of, started this trend where people are going to see movies. This movie has done, like 13 million people at the box office. Has really kind of reignited people to come back to the theaters, which is really good because right now, the Korean cinema is not doing that well. And then I would recommend Noryang, which is the Lee Sun-shin movie. It's basically, I guess, this third movie. It's called Noryang Deadly Sea. It's a Korean historical actioner that dominated the Christmas season. It's doing really well, but again, it's compared to how Korean cinema was doing pre-pandemic, we're not doing really that well. But hopefully these movies will kind of bring the audience back to theaters. And, we really need that right now in Korea as well.
Right, I cannot agree more. And thank you for your recommendation, Professor Soh. Now, Professor Jeong, shifting gears to webtoons. South Korea's webtoon industry has witnessed sales growth for 5 consecutive years, and the Culture Ministry is determined to foster a so-called Netflix of webtoons, or webcomics, should I say, in the country. Now, what are the details of this plan?
Well, first of all, the Ministry of Culture plans to promote new businesses that will promote info on overseas market and also consulting for domestic webtoon companies to expand overseas. And they've also expanded the budget for interpretation and translation because our webtoons are in Korean language, and so it can reach a wider audience. And the government also plans to establish a comics and webtoon academy to foster new creators and also establish a webtoon festival and awards ceremonies. And so these are all very ambitious plans, but I do agree that Korea has a very unique webtoon industry, and I do hope that they will see these plans forward.
Right. I mean, continuous sales growth is, of course, important, but you see, what also matters is the industry growing in a proper and healthy way. And so there was certainly recently a report actually saying that despite such overall industry growth, webtoon creators have seen a decline in their incomes due to intensified competition. So, Professor Soh, what direction should the growth plan take?
Well, I think, Professor Jeong really outlined it well. I think the government and basically the industry's doing really well, but at the same time, competition's really good. I personally think, if we all made the same stuff, and this happened with, I think, a lot of the waves that happened in previous years. Like, for example, we had the Hong Kong New Wave where it was like action films sort of dominated the world with that. And then basically, like all waves, it starts to recede because, again, everything starts to look the same and, you're making sort of repetitions of your past. So in order for us to keep going, I think the webtoon industry is very healthy in Korea. I know, when I'm on the subway, everybody's looking at webtoons in Korea. And there really wasn't a correlation between webtoons and other, media, but now it's become commonplace for a lot of, K-dramas to be doing webtoon-based stuff like Concrete Utopia is like an example of that. Also, in the film industry, you know, we're basically adopting webtoons to films, and it's kind of an healthy system because you see in one form that it's popular with the mainstream, and then you switch it to a different form. So it's something like, you know, that sort of like what everybody talks about, that one source multi-use thing that's happening, and I think that's a healthy thing. But again, competition is really important also, you know, because I am Professor Jeong, we're all in the education field. I think what we have to do is also kind of create more opportunities for newer filmmakers, younger filmmakers, so that they continue making good content. And unfortunately, right now, the Bong Joon-ho's or the, you know, basically Hwang Dong-hyuk's, they're already established artists that are continuing to make stuff, but I would like to see more independent films being made. Also, webtoons are the same guys that, you know, make the webtoons are doing really great, but I think we need to keep having new blood come in and creating content so that, you know, we continue this Korean wave around the world for a long time.
Right, we need to keep nurturing the new talents. Well, Professor Jeong, what's your view on this?
Just like Professor Soh said, in addition to creating more opportunities to foster new creators, there should also be regulations that protect creators' labor and income. For example, I know that a lot of creators work way over time, so there should be regulations that protect their time, whether it's the actual time they spend on creating webtoons, or also the transparency between the platform and the creators to protect their income.
Right, I see your point. Well, I'd like to ask many more questions to our experts, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Professor Jeong and Professor Soh, for your time and insights today. We really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be here next Monday with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the weekend, and goodbye.